I welcome you here to the Mom's Mindset webinar experience. I have some chills because of, how this developed and where I've come from and what I believe in. So I'm just excited to share this with you. But the goal is just to connect for you in any way you'd like to, whether it's personal, family, or professional challenges as a mom. Now, I'm assuming everyone's a mom here. You don't have to be a mom to be here for sure. I believe in some way we all are a bit of a mom. We all do nurturing to others. But I'll tell you, what I have learned is that, why am I focusing on moms? I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from, but I'll tell you first why I'm focusing on moms so you know. And the reason is, to me, moms are the most influential leaders in the world. I've thought about this a great deal for years. And there's a lot of mindset training, for corporate and for all kinds of professions and for athletes. And I've been a trainer, I've been in education, I've done all kinds of things. Yet when I think about it, when I go back into my situation and, who affected me the most, whether it was positive or negative, and it was my parents. And that's not something that I think that they realized, of course, and it's a big impact. But whether we take the time to care about it, or whatever we do or we don't do, we make a huge influence. And then our children grow up and they deal with people, and then they take those things forward. There's a lot of generational habits that are, come about parenting. So not to put any pressure on all of us, right? But I've learned that becoming a parent means parenting yourself. And I believe in this strongly. So I believe in the mission of helping moms becoming the best person they can be. And it's not just about the children, it's about ourselves. So that's where I come from. And that's where I'm going with this. And a little bit about me, these are called identities. These are things I'd say I identify with, these parts of my life. I'm a mother, I've been an educator, a trainer and coach, an entrepreneur, adventurer. Yoga's been a big part of my life. The yogini means a female yoga practitioner. I know some of you know that for sure, like Lulu, because she practices with me every week. And then I love vegan food, and I started playing pickleball. And, I call myself a pickleball player, not because I think I'm great, but because I want to be good. And so I'm going to identify with that as an identity, which we're going to talk about today. I want to tell you, though, that I started off my education, my career as a math teacher. I went to college for engineering, and I switched my major to math, and I became a teacher. I kind of fell into teaching. And what I saw within the first year, I grew up as a problem solver. I'm just like trying to always solve that bigger problem. What I saw in the classroom was that I could help these kids learn math and I could work with them. Yet I also saw that there were kids that came in the classroom that were at a disadvantage because of their mindset. And I realized if we could do everything in school, but if parents have a different mindset at home, there's not a whole lot we can do to help kids believe in themselves, right? And I saw that, by working in California schools. I got married and we moved to Kuwait, and I taught overseas in private schools in Kuwait, worked with Kuwaitis and Egyptians and Iranians and Palestinians. And I became a homeschool mom. I saw that whole thing. I saw my own motherhood. I watched my own self not be the mom I wanted to be, and I couldn't figure out what was holding me back, I went on to teach in Colombia and South America. I taught in Venezuela, helped run a school. I worked with families and parents and communities, and opened a yoga studio where I worked with hundreds and thousands of moms, over the years, and always was working on my own self-development. So my career's been around this, and I've realized again that this is where the impact can be. So that's a little bit about me. I want to share this slide is really important to me. So I started a company a few years ago, the concept of it anyway, called Inside Door. And Inside Door, I have several different types of trainings. I'm focusing on my mom's mindset training today. I have other trainings that I do regarding personal development. But what I've learned and what I've seen is that we can come in and we can work on issues at work. Like, say, for example, I'm having trouble communicating with my boss, or I'm having a fear around giving my employees expectations. And there's definitely things, obviously, we can do. We also have issues with our family, like I'm having trouble communicating with my children, or I'm having trouble setting boundaries, even with my partner, or my friends. I don't know why, but I keep saying yes all the time, right? These are issues that come up at family and friends. Yet if we can look at those things and we can figure out what they are on the inside, the self, we don't have to work on all the other things. You know why? Because they literally kind of dissipate. They kind of dissolve when we can focus on what's the inner core issue. So all of my trainings, whether it's mindset or action planning, even yoga and meditation, I focus on the self, right? If we can. And that's also come about because I've worked with some business owners to come in and help with business systems. And I had to giggle because I would hear all this, for example, like, I'm so that employers would say, like, I'm so worried my employees are going to leave. If I train them all and give them all this information, like, what if they leave me? And there's a trust issue there, right? And I thought, well, if this person doesn't work on trust, this is never going to change, right? So we can work on work, but so that's why I like, okay, who wants to work on from the inside out, right? That's what I'm all about. And that's what this is. All right. So I want to start with this concept of identities, and then I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and we're going to do a little exercise. But in order to start in any area, it's really important, especially as moms, to look at like, what do we want to be? What do we stand for? Who do we want to become? And I consider it's kind of like a diamond. And many of you have probably seen this before if you've done any of my, this is like the core of my trainings. Um, if we're like a diamond, we're not just one thing. We are so many facets. Like we are a writer, or we want to be a writer. We're a teacher. There's a part of us, and there's a mom, which I've had many moms say that is who I am. Like I am a mom, and we can think beyond that though. Maybe we're a business owner. Maybe we're a runner. And some of you, we have, different things we do. And some of these things, the good news is we don't even have to be these things yet. We just have to have this work in our life, we have to know what we want to become. What do you want to be? What do you stand for? Who do you want to become? So there's different ways I go about figuring out identities. One way is to ask these 3 questions, right? So what do we identify with? This can be tough. A lot of times it's like, I have no idea, and then it takes a little exploration because guess what? It is in there. It's just that maybe we're so, as moms, overly focused on everybody else that we don't ask these questions. So that's what I call the identities. And we use this throughout many other concepts. So I wanted to start with that. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second and come back into the chat. I know I can chat and do that, but I like to just see your face. So those of you that can use the chat, or you would, let's start with put an identity. What is something that you feel is you stand for? What are some of the identities that you have right now that that either I stand for this or I want to be this? Let's list them in the chat and just throw them in there. 1, 2, however, 7, however many you can think of. Just put some in there. Okay, and I see a few coming in. I'm going to give it another few, not minutes, but a few more seconds to see if you want to add anything in there. And thanks for sharing. And guess what? If you don't feel like it, then you don't have to do it. So you get to choose. Sometimes the way we need to absorb is just by observing and be a part of things. So that's okay too. So I have, and thanks for sharing. So a good Christian, a helper to others, honesty, integrity, patience, serenity to start. So thank you. So we're going to look at these and some more as to, who are we? Who do we want to be? And it could be that it's when we say honesty, integrity, patient, it could be the patient mom, it could be an honest citizen, right? So we want to name who that part of us, that is that. Patience, clear mind. Yeah, so maybe I want to be a patient, clear-minded woman. And so these are facets of our beautiful diamond that we are. And again, it might be something that we want to be. It might be who we identify with now. So thanks for sharing that. And we're going to do a little workshopping with some of this together for those of you that are willing and those of you that just want to observe. So just to be able to listen. So my next question for you is, if you would, and again, it could be if you would share, what is your biggest, thanks, Sherry, a person that others can look up to? Okay. So we're gonna come back to these ideas. Now, second question is, what is your biggest challenge right now? And don't think too hard, just what comes up. What's your biggest challenge? You can hold it you can write it down on your own paper. You can hold it in your head, your heart, and you can also share it, which would be great. Mm, thanks, Tanya. So do too many plates spinning at once. Children that hate school and will not self-start or care about their work. These are big, right? These are big challenges. Sometimes I'll know for me, it's knowing what task is most important, right? Deciding on what exactly I need to do today to get where I want to go, is a challenge, right? And there's so many plates spinning. What do you do, right? And anything, which do you focus on? Anybody else want to share? And you can also unmute. I know some of you maybe can't type, but maybe you can unmute and you want to share a challenge that you're having. Mm-hmm. Sherry, right? I'm with you, right? Focusing on the right thing at the right time, prioritizing and knowing, right? Okay, great. Last call. Anybody else want to share one? It's never the last call, but if you want to do it right now. Okay. Communication is a challenge. Okay, good to know. Right. So again, and I know, and actually, like for example, like Jennifer, we've talked about identities before. I will tell you though, when you start working with this concept and I actually have this online course that you may or may not know about called Mom's Mindset for Success. And everything we do in that course comes back to will be identities. And it's not like you set these once and then you're done, right? Because these challenges you're listing are going to change. And then we're going to maybe achieve these, and then we're going to have new ones, right? Yay. But, right. So it never really ends. But having a process and having tools and things that work are really important for us, right? So, okay. I am now going to ask for the start. Would anybody be willing, okay, to unmute and talk through your example with me? Okay, we can do one or two or three at a time, or one at a time. But if you would be willing to talk through your example with me, can you just put yes in the chat? Okay. Okay, that's okay too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an example and work through it, right? And then we can kind of go from there. So let me go back to sharing. I think the one I'm going to take, because we have a couple people referencing it, is kind of having so much on the plate and knowing what to focus on. Okay. And I'll give a more of a generic example with that. All right, so let me share my screen. Sorry, guys. I have all these things that show up and they cover what I want to show. Here we go. Okay. All right. So we talked about what's our biggest challenge. And what I want to look at is actually giving ourselves the ability to look at that and then look at how do we want it to be, right? So this is one way of even creating an identity. It's not the only way, but it's one way. So I'm going to go over to a different screen in a second, but I would like you to think about, okay, for that challenge you wrote down, how would you like it to be? Okay. How would you like it to be? And I'm going to guess, because I don't have, maybe we're not going to show that together, but I'm going to do an example. So, okay. So let's say biggest challenge is, right? Deciding what to do with so many things on my plate. Okay, and I'm going to guess that the desired outcome is to achieve a certain goal, right? So let's just say I have a business, and my goal is to be, say, balanced my business with my personal life, with my life of being a mom, right? So my goal is to reach my business goals and I'll just say be a connected mom or partner. We can put it down on that so it'll fit in there a little bit. I hope this is you can see this. Okay. Okay. So my goal might be, I want to reach my business goals and be a connected mom and partner. That's a tall order, right? Doesn't matter if it's a tall order or not, right? Because it's what we want. The important thing is to voice to ourselves what we really, really want, right? And that's the outcome. So what I'm going to do is create an identity around that, an actual name of who I have to be, right? And that's going to help me make those decisions. So I'm going to say, to reach my business goals and be a connected mom and partner, I might want to say I'm a balanced and successful. Maybe it's a mom and business. I would prefer to maybe put these into two separate ones, but that's maybe one that would cover both, because it's kind of saying mom and business owner. But just to It doesn't really matter as long as it works for you, right? So balanced and successful mom and business owner, right? That's who I really want to be. That would put it as one. I also could have a balanced mom, a successful business owner, could be two, right? A balanced mom, a successful business owner would be two different ways to do that. Okay, another challenge we had was communication. I think I'm gonna have time to do two, but communication also came up with somebody I was chatting with yesterday. So the biggest challenge is communication, and I'm gonna say maybe that's with a family member, right? Maybe that's with children or spouse. Okay, sorry about the. Okay, communication with children or spouse. Well, my desired outcome, right, would probably be to be able to listen and share my true, maybe listen and share what's important to me, right? Listen and share what is important to me. So the identity might be something that's maybe a communicative, maybe it might be like expert, but excellent communicator. Maybe it's excellent family communicator. Maybe it's just family communicator. Doesn't have to be excellent, right? Just get the job done. So I'm just going to take that off. I think sometimes like we reaching for things that are just have to be so great. It's just like, let's just do it. Right. So if I'm a family communicator, right, then it's like, okay. So the reason I wanted to share this, right, and now I'm going to go into this, you can see this a little bit bigger. Oh, there we go. Is that when I have an identity like balanced and successful mom and business owner, I can use that. So for example, when I can look at I'm in a moment where something comes up, right? And I look at all the things on my to-do list and I want to feel that I'm balancing this out. My question would be, what would a balanced and successful mom and business owner do? And again, I think that's it. Maybe I want to say, what would a balanced mom do? What would a successful business owner do? And I might have to take those separately, right? But I have to ask those things. Otherwise, I can get pulled into other people's important things that are not, and they might be urgent for them, but they're not important to those two identities. I hope that makes sense. So when we're stuck and we have this overwhelm, we stop, we pause, we look at the situation and say, what would the balanced mom do? What would a successful business owner do? Right. And we ask and say, okay, now I need to prioritize that way. Right. Obviously, we can't do everything, but we can weed out a ton of stuff that's for other people and not for ourselves. So that's the first thing I'd say. And then for family communicator, maybe I'm having an issue communicating with all my kids, right? And there's something that needs to be changed. And I could say, what would that family communicator do, right? And it's just the start. There's so much more, but it's a start to thinking like this, right? And it might be like, I need to get some training, I need to figure out how to set boundaries or how to set agreements. I need to figure out how to listen better. I need to just talk it through with somebody. I need to pause, right? but it's a start. So creating and using identities are a start to becoming that person, that part of that facet of who we really want to be, right? And I'm not going to lie, this takes time. It doesn't just like we throw out some identities every day and run with it. No, it takes some time to set aside, right? And to look at these things. So those are those are some big identities. It might even just be like you want to run a marathon, and so you call yourself a runner. So what would a runner do when it comes to opening the refrigerator today? Would you eat ice cream and leftovers, or would you make a fresh salad and cook yourself a fresh meal? So it's when you have these identities, it helps guide your decisions. Okay. All right. We're gonna go on, but I kind of want to take a quick second and come back, stop sharing, and see if you have any questions about what I've said there. Any questions or anything come up with that so far? No? Does it make sense? Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So does this solve all of our problems? No. It's the beginning, though, to a thought process of a mindset shift, right? And it's the foundation of everything, right? Um, so let me go back and I'm going to continue here and share a little bit more. All right. So the next thing is we have this identity, right? And well, then again, like I said, so it'll help make decisions, right? Decisions. So now we have a lot of habits, and I do talk about in this course, Mom's Mindset for Success, generational habits. These are things we do without even thinking about it. And sometimes we don't even know they're there, right? So one way to look at that is, well, who do you want to become? We talked about that. What is the identity? And we start there. We don't even have to be there, but we have to name it. And not just with an adjective like I want to be more serene, right? It's maybe I want to I want to be a calm mom. I want to be a calm communicator. I am so we have these identities, and that's the starting point. And then we create habits. We can create habits to reach many different outcomes. In other words, it's not just about, I want this talk today to go really well with my child. That's one outcome, and that's great. But if we focus on who we want to become and start having habits, then we're going to have many outcomes. If we want to be, say, this calm communicator, and we want to have today's talk, which is an outcome, go really well, we can create some habits, right? Maybe if we have a habit of asking every morning, we have a habit of asking our kids, how do they feel, about the day, and just listening. How do you feel about what's on your plate for today? And we listen. Maybe it's just a habit, something we do every day. So we create these habits versus just solving one problem. Right. And that's what we can do when we know who we want to become. Right. And again, determining that might take a while. So a question we can ask is, are there any old identities that are stopping you from creating new ones? And usually the answer to that would probably be like, probably, right? Do we know what they are? Hard to say. Sometimes they wonder, like, why am I not becoming, like, why am I not changing? And typically it's because we're wrapped up in these old habits that we've not really seen. And there's an old identity there. There's a belief, a self-limiting belief that we have, could be about ourselves, right? And what that might look like, and I'm just going to give an example of this, are generational habits. Okay. So generational habits could be things like this, right? How many of you feel sometimes that you procrastinate or you hold back ideas? They're really good, but you don't share them, or maybe you don't share them in a meeting when people are giving the ideas that you think are even better than yours or something, perfectionism could hold us back. overwhelm and stress, an overbooked schedule, not making the decisions, take things personally, compare yourself to others. Okay. So if you would in the chat, go ahead and put in the chat any of these that you feel has become a habit, or maybe something that you notice you do these things. Okay. If you'll be brave enough to share, or unmute and just say, yep, I do that one. And I'll start. If you guys put some in the chat, I'll start by saying that perfectionism is one of my definitely a habit of wanting things to be perfect. Now, to be quite honest, that can be a great thing, right? But it can really, really hold you back and hold me back. And I learned that very young. I was raised by a mom that had a really tough upbringing. She was raised by an alcoholic dad, and she did everything she could in her adult life to make like everything was perfect, because her life was so difficult. So not only did she want her life to look perfect, but she became a mom of 4 girls who then had to be perfect, so she felt okay, right? Now, I look back, I'm going to stop sharing here for a second. And she was one of my greatest teachers. Now I realize I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if my mom hadn't gone through all that, right? And I'm able to see that why this happened, you know? And there's some great things about being a perfectionist, yet it can really hold you back from just getting stuff done that you want, right? So, but that was something that I learned, right? Was to be a perfectionist. So I don't know if anybody wants to share. Are there any of those things that you notice that hold you back, right? So thanks, Lulu. So overwhelmed, perfectionist, procrastinator. Yeah. Could be overscheduling. I know some of you said we have so much on our plates. And so it's almost hard not to overschedule. But what happens is we're not taking care of ourselves, right? And why do we do it? You know, why are we overscheduling ourselves? So why, and so next question becomes is like, well, where are all these habits coming from? So if you had to guess, what's the one fear that these habits come from? Procrastinating, being a perfectionist, overwhelm, overscheduling. What's the fear behind all these things? Anybody know? We overschedule to make others happy, people pleasing. Love it. Yeah. How many of us are people pleasers? Come on. Like, who doesn't love to, please people, right? Especially moms. I want to be everything. I want everything to be in place instead of just doing it. Yes. Right. And I learned a great phrase for that, Jules, I hear it in my head all the time. Done, not perfect. Right. If I can say it's done, not perfect, move on. What's next? Just get it done, get it out there. We have amazing ideas, right? All right. I want to go back to people pleasing. So if we overschedule to make others happy and people please, what are we afraid of? What if we don't overschedule? What if we don't please them? What are we afraid of? Why do we want to please people? Okay, awesome. We don't want rejection. We don't want to make them angry. Why not? What are we afraid of? So they reject us and get angry. What does that matter to us? Why? Why does that bother us? What is the fear? But it does matter, right? We feel it. It does matter. Rejection's scary, and so is making them angry. If someone rejects us or they get angry, what do we feel about ourselves? Like we failed. And that's interesting because that's their perception, right? Did we fail? No, but it's true, right? So if we fail, if we're fearing failure, it's the fear of failure, right? There we go, pretty much. Fear of failure, fear of, um, fear of failing. Yeah. That's why it shouldn't matter, but we make it matter. We do because it hurts, right? And that's why, what does it take? What does it take to move beyond that? Well, all these, I'm going to say, are the fear of not being enough, right? If we're why are we scared of failing? Because like usually everything's tied to that. Like if we're just not quite enough. Like really, who the heck cares if you fail? We all have heard that if you fail 9 times, you're gonna succeed the 10th, and that's how we make it, right? So we better get used to failing, but we're not taught that, right? We're taught that that's not good. You're not enough if you fail, but we know logically we know that's not true, right?
There's a thing
So
called Failing Forward.
what's that?
I says there's a book out there called Failing Forward.
Failing forward.
Teach,
Is that you,
yeah,
Sherry?
yeah, teaching you that failure doesn't mean you failed. That just means, like this one person said, I've learned 99 times what it doesn't take.
Right. Absolutely. Failing forward. I know I've heard that phrase and probably that book. And yeah, there's such good information about that. And I know in this course we talk about growth mindset and fixed mindset. And the interesting thing, if you have a growth mindset, failing is just an action. But if you have a fixed mindset, failing is an identity. And that's where we're stuck. It's actually an identity. We think it's, oh, I am a failure. No, I'm not. I just failed. That's an action, right? That's something that happened, right? So, so that start to that, I want to talk to you, just share a little bit about, well, what's Katy, what's all this about, So again, in my own work, my life, my research, my education, I've put together an entire course called Mom's Mindset for Success. And the first thing we dive into are identities, like a little bit we talked about here, we just scratched the surface, versus goals. And then I know many of you are like, what about language and listening, right? And language is a tough one. We don't realize what we're saying to ourselves. We really get into that. Not just even the sentences, but the words that they're habitual that we're using that are literally probably telling us negative things. So we comb through that and we look at our language, our listening and communication. Um, we work through these things, breaking generational habits by building identity-based habits. So how do we break those habits? Well, we build new ones, right? How do we build new ones? We got to figure out who we want to be, right? And that's what we take. And what does that take? That takes time, and it takes dedicated, space and time to look at this. I look at working on myself as important as working in my work, because how am I going to do the best I can do? I have to, there's only so far you can go with the outside circles, right? It's working on yourself. Literally self-care is the big thing. We're doing self-care here, everyone, like really taking time in a program like for yourself. But there's a whole section I go to in self-care, which is self-development, routines, planning, prepping, all kinds of things we can do to make sure we're putting ourselves in there. It's huge for moms. Boundaries are big. And we talk about boundaries in the course to help you thrive, not just boundaries for your little ones, your teens and your adult kids, but boundaries for you, yourself, and how to turn a negative mindset into positive action. And that's where we start to make big change. Again, it starts with our identities. Now, it doesn't matter how long this takes, right? It might take a while. So I teach a lot of things that we use in that course that I wanted to mention. And in the end, here's what I wanted to say is, here's 3 questions to ask. And then I'm just going to give you an opportunity to sign up for do we go further. But the 3 questions are, what do you want? What do you really want? Why haven't you achieved this before now? And that's a good self-reflection. Like, why haven't I? There's no shame in it, by the way. It's just like, well, what's stopping me? And then if you do nothing, what will it be like in a year from now? So if you look at that biggest challenge that you had today, what is it you want it to be? Why do you think you haven't achieved it? And if you do nothing, what will it be like in a year from now? Okay, so those are the questions I'd like you just to think about. And then now for everybody here, I would like to give something to you. And I mean this from my heart. It's just to take time and have a meeting with me. We can talk further, and whatever is kind of stopping you or on your mind, you want to maybe investigate it. And then we can look at some, maybe figure out what might be good for you to work on, based on your experience, my experience talking together. So I'd like to do that. And let me go back here. And I'm going to put a link in the chat and just give a few minutes here for you to take a moment and sign up for a 1 hour. If you need the hour, if you don't, that's fine too. It doesn't have to be an hour. A session with me. And I'm going to put that in the chat. So go ahead and take a minute, please. And it'll give you a month to look at. And I know some of you had said, I want to talk about communication today. I want to talk about this or that today. And we probably didn't talk exactly about your specific situation, but this would be for you to lay it out, So take a minute, and there's the link, and I'll have you find a good time for you. And anybody that's watching the recording, you can do this too. And I do want to tell you here while you're doing that, it's my goal to help moms, and I do believe we are the biggest influencers in the world. So you're helping me by, allowing me to listen. If you want to work further, great. And if you don't, maybe we know another option. And I will always find an option. 100%. That's what I do. So I want you to feel comfortable, and I want you to take advantage of that. So put that in the chat. And if you'd let me know once you're done, you just put done in the chat. Just give it a couple more minutes. And also I want to tell you that you might just say, well, I don't know if I want to talk about me, but I have some ideas. I wondered if you could work with this group or that group. I work with school districts. I partner with organizations like Michelle's Place, Cancer Research Center. And that is my goal, to reach and be a part of things in this community and a broader community. So if you want to just talk about that too, that's fine. Okay. All right. I hope you've taken advantage of that. I'm gonna wrap things up here with just a couple more things to share with you so that I have shared it with you. Let me come on here. Oh, and that's what it looks like there if you came on to looking for the session, and you can just pick the day. And again, this is, I think, opens it up through the next 30 days. Okay. So going back here, I also have a Mom's Mindset for Success Facebook community. And if you got my emails, and unfortunately some of you didn't, but you will, it links to it. But it's a lovely group that I'm building. And I do put a lot of not just tips, but informational videos that I make weekly. They're short. There'll be more communication coming up in the group. there's tips, and there's a lot of things there. And I think it's a great place to connect. So I'm going to put that in the chat. If you haven't signed up for this Facebook group, put that right in the chat. Okay, and then I'm going to go back here. And I want to let you know also that, yep, and that's a community of growth-minded moms. I have a lot of moms in there I've worked with over the years, amazing, business owners, yoga practitioners, and people that just kind of want to keep learning about how to be our best self. Okay, another thing is I do have my Mom's Mindset for Success course, and it's available on my website. I'm really excited to get everything in one place. It's a 6-module course, and we can talk more about it. My coach has said we're going to give the first 10 people a $200 discount. So if you would like that, just let me know, and I will send you the code, and that's something you can use for the course. And I also have a mastermind group, which is a coaching program that will go through 6 months with the course. And we can talk about that if you're interested, but that's going to be with a weekly meeting. So I want to thank you for attending the webinar experience with me. I hope it was an experience for you that was good. And I would always love your feedback for sure. So stay in touch, and you can email me at info@insidedoor.net. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram, or you can join that Facebook group, and you can check out all this on the website at insidedoor.net. And so I'm going to stop here, right? And I want to ask for one quick favor. If I could just take a little photo, right, of this for me. And if you are able to put your camera on, I'd love to see your beautiful face. If not, I completely understand. I'm just going to take a little screenshot. Thanks, Jennifer. All right, I'm going to give you another couple seconds. I don't want to keep everyone waiting too long. All right, so I'm going to take it. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, and you can wave or not. You can smile. All right. I got my crosshairs. 3, 2, thank you. 1. All right, thanks everybody. And I got the nice little photo to remember this. And I am here if you have any questions or comments. I'm also open to staying on and chatting if you want. I hope you have a great day, and thank you so much for joining.